The literary architecture of First Enoch shifts dramatically one final time in the whole story of the animal apocalypse. We leave the allegorical landscapes of the dream visions and enter the fifth and final major section of the corpus. It's called the Epistle of Enoch, spanning chapters 91 through 105. So we're getting really close to the end here. So in the dream visions, we need to understand something. If the dream visions were a coded mythological history of the cosmos, the epistle is a direct and urgent and highly polemical farewell address, if you will. Enoch gathers his children around him to deliver his final instructions just before he is permanently taken up into the realms. He tells them to love righteousness and to avoid the paths of wickedness. But the core of his theological final testament is embedded in a highly structured, self-contained apocalyptic poem known to scholars as the Apocalypse of Weeks. So, before we analyze the theology of this text, we have to look at one of the most fascinating instances of textual forensics in modern biblical scholarship. If you open a standard English translation of 1 Enoch and read the Ethiopic text, especially of chapter 91, and then read chapter 93, you will likely be incredibly confused. The sequence of the text seems to jump back and forth erratically. In the Ethiopic manuscript tradition, the first 7 weeks of history are found in chapter 93, but the final 3 weeks, the eschatological climax, are inexplicably displaced and buried back in chapter 91. For centuries, scholars suspected that an ancient scribe must have dropped a page of the manuscript, something like that. Like they're trying to figure out what happened here. Maybe when it was packed up, they lost it, and then he bound it back into the codex in the wrong order and put the page in the wrong way. Whoops. It was a highly educated guess, but a guess nonetheless. That all changed with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Among the Aramaic fragments of Enoch found in Cave 4 at Qumran was a manuscript designated as 4QENG. Okay? When scholars painstakingly reconstructed this fragmented Aramaic scroll, found the Apocalypse of Weeks in its original, uninterrupted chronological order. The linguistic forensics confirmed what textual critics had theorized. The Ethiopic version suffered a physical displacement during its transmission. With the original structure restored, we can clearly see the profound deterministic worldview the author is deploying. The Apocalypse of Weeks divides the entirety of human history into 10 sequential periods or weeks. This is not intended to be a literal calculation of days and years. It is a theological construct. The author is forcefully arguing that human history is not a series of random chaotic events governed by human politics. History is a closed, highly regulated system. It has a definitive beginning and strictly scheduled progression and an inescapable predetermined end. God has a cosmic itinerary. and the empires of the earth cannot alter it by a single second. Enoch states that he was born in the first week, in the week of righteousness. The second week encompasses the great judgment of the flood and the preservation of Noah. The third week brings the planting of the quote-unquote righteous branch, pointing to Abraham and the patriarchs. The fourth week encompasses the Exodus and Sinai and the giving of the law. The fifth week centers on the construction of the quote-unquote house of glory, of course, the first temple of Solomon. But as we move into the sixth week, the trajectory of history plummets. Enoch prophesies that during the sixth week, all those who live in it will be blinded, and the hearts of all of them will godlessly forsake wisdom. This culminates in the destruction of the temple and the Babylonian exile. From a historical critical perspective, the transmission into the seventh week is where the text reaches its highest sociological tension. The author describes the seventh week as a perverse and apostate generation. There are many deeds in this week, but all of them are corrupt. This seventh week represents the author's own present reality. He is living in the Hellenistic period, surrounded by political corruption, in a compromised priesthood, and a society that has, in his view, completely abandoned the cosmic order. But right at the agonizing climax of the seventh week, the text pivots. Enoch declares that at the end of this corrupt era, the, quote, elect of righteousness, unquote, will be chosen from the eternal plant of righteousness, and they will be given sevenfold instruction concerning the entire creation. We must understand exactly what the author is claiming here. He is not saying that the entire nation of Judea will suddenly repent. He is claiming that a highly specific, marginalized, enlightened minority, his own Enochic community, has been predestined from the foundation of the world to receive exclusive esoteric knowledge. They are the ones who possess the astronomical books and the correct calendar and the true understanding of the angelic realm. In an age of total blindness, they alone have been granted cosmic sight. This claim to the exclusive divine revelation is the psychological armor that allows apocalyptic communities to survive extreme persecution. The empires might have the swords, and the corrupt priests might hold the temple, but marginalized community holds the very blueprints of the universe. And it is this chosen community that initiates the eschatological climax of history. As we move into the eighth week, the text says that a sword is given to the righteous. But unlike the animal apocalypse, where the Maccabees engaged in physical guerrilla warfare against the Seleucids, the apocalypse of weeks seems to envision a broader, more definitive execution of divine justice. The righteous themselves become the active agents of God's wrath, executing judgment upon the oppressors. Following this violent clearing of the wicked, a new eternal temple is established. The ninth week expands the scope of the judgment outward. It is no longer localized to Judea. The entire world is subjugated and subjected to the righteous judgment, and the deeds of the wicked vanish from the earth entirely. But the ultimate cosmic resolution occurs when, in the 10th and final week, in the seventh part of the 10th week, the supreme, terrifying judgment of the angels takes place. The fallen watchers, who have been imprisoned in the abyss since the days of the flood, face their final, eternal annihilation. And then the universe itself is fundamentally rebooted. Enoch prophesies that the first heaven and sky that was corrupted by the descent of the watchers and the erratic wandering of the demonic stars will completely pass away. A new heaven will appear, and all the powers of the heavens will shine with sevenfold light forever. Following this cosmic upgrade, history simply stops being counted. Enoch says there will be many weeks without number forever, and they shall be entirely in goodness and righteousness. Sin shall no more be mentioned forever. The deterministic clock runs out. The system of time, which was necessary to quantify and contain the infection of evil, is no longer needed.